As an industrial hygienist, occupational health as a whole is extremely important because even though industrial hygienists primarily focus on the hazards themselves, things like chemicals or physical agents, it's really important to understand the health effects that those hazards have on humans. It helps us make better assessments. It helps us prepare for what might happen if certain agents are used in certain fields. So I think it's indispensable.
I started as an epidemiologist here at the health department over 11 years ago, and through the program at UCLA, I found that I loved the interdisciplinary work in occupational health to be really rewarding. I fell in love with occupational epidemiology because of the faculty that we have at UCLA, and I found that the methods and the work that industrial hygienists, occupational doctors, and occupational health nurses really added to my own education as an epidemiologist.
So I ended up going to get a master's degree in public health, deciding to focus my training in public health. But I was always interested in the workers' health piece, but a little bit like reticent to fully embrace it because I didn't have the training in that area. So this was really a perfect opportunity where I could say, okay, I've been interested in this topic for a long time, and now I can kind of commit to focusing on work as it relates to parenthood and health of children and families, and then I'll get the training that I need to be able to do a good job.
For us, meaning that people that have gone to higher education, we might know our rights very well, and we might know when something happened at work, how the process works. So for me to learn as much as I can, then I can go out and teach the clients everything that I have learned so they could be their own advocates.
We need nurses in workplaces. We need nurses in medical practices, nurse practitioners in medical practices who are knowledgeable about occupational and environmental health, who can assess people and place them with appropriate accommodations. I mean, the workplace is a tremendous place for prevention.
There are many, many varieties of hazards and risks in a workplace. And the industrial hygienist has to be trained to recognize all of them and when they interact. So an industrial hygienist is essentially a one-person team who has to be interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary.
Benefits of the program were being able to work and learn from all the other students. It's one thing to have didactic lessons from your professors and from the readings, but it's another to really learn from different disciplines and actually have things like clinical case conferences where you get to go over real world examples and applications. And I found that to be extraordinarily elucidating to my field and my practice as an epidemiologist.
This part of this program is the fact that you go in with one thing thinking, oh, I'm going to learn occupational health, but you really don't realize how vast that is. And you meet a lot of interprofessional, colleagues that are giving you an idea as to what occupational health means and what they deal with. So I just appreciate all the different people that came into the program and taught us about what they do. And I feel like there's a lot of mentorship in this program. As opposed to, when you go to a school, it's like more you learn from the book, you do your little exams, and then, you're kind of like, okay, now I have to take a test. But this is actually really in a very applicable way. So I appreciate that.
I really learned a lot from the trainings and the journal club sessions, and conversations with other students. And I think for me, what overall has been the most helpful for my research is just getting a sense of what other jobs are like. Because I realized I think a lot of us have a bias towards the kind of jobs that we have and the jobs that people in our family have. That's what we know, and then we tend to make assumptions based on those jobs.
It essentially allows people in occupational health that include industrial hygienists, nurses, occupational physicians, to essentially make contact and to interact as a good practice for what's going to go on in an actual workplace. I like saying that if you want to make mistakes, there's the place to make the mistakes while you're here at university, because in the workplace, you become the expert and you can't afford to make too many mistakes.
I think the best benefit is the classes, especially the interdisciplinary classes that we have, where we get members from all different fields, be it occupational medicine, the physicians, dentistry, occupational health nursing, epidemiologists, being able to bring together all of those fields and get a good consensus of ideas from different professionals and academics who look at problems from different ways helps us as an industrial hygienist have a broader view of the hazards and risks and different issues that might come up.
I'm one of the few TRT people, the few people doing like population health training. It's very interdisciplinary for me. A lot of it's focused on topics that I wasn't that familiar with, like chemical exposures, ergonomic exposures, things like that. So it is in part the content, but also interacting with the other students.
Because none of us operate on a silo, right? We actually work better if we know what everybody's role is. And then if we learn from each other, if we appreciate what everybody does, it just makes you a better practitioner. And then also the emphasis on making acquaintances now, because when you go into the world, a nurse practitioner, is just as good as all the resources that she can pull in. And so having those colleagues in your class and, planning for the future is very important.
So it allows the students to work together with the other disciplines. And so they learn what these other disciplines do. And that really helps, because then they know what those people can do, and they know when to call for help when they have a particular problem in their workplace. And it's like, okay, I have this issue, but it's beyond the scope of practice of a nurse practitioner. I need to call in the industrial hygienist.
Occupational health is really important for studying the health of adults and children because it's where most adults are spending the majority of our waking hours, and yet I don't think it gets enough attention. I was exposed to some themes related to occupational health in my Master in Public Health training, but honestly not enough, I think, in relation to how much workplace exposure, working conditions can affect people's health. I think it's kind of an undervalued area of study within public health. And so that means there's a lot that still needs to be uncovered.
If you simply look at the history of occupational health, obviously a lot of mistakes have happened in the past. Over the years, we've gained a very large body of knowledge, but that body of knowledge is continually growing. If we don't learn about the history and learn about the current, research trends or information coming out, we won't be able to make workplaces safer for workers.
The experience I had in the ERC, learning from the different disciplines, has really made me a more well-rounded and thoughtful epidemiologist. Certainly when we do worksite exposures, it helps immensely. And during this pandemic, it has been extremely helpful, since most of our outbreaks have been occurring in some type of workplace among our essential workers. And so I'm very grateful for the experience and the lessons that I learned.
Just being able to empower yourself so you can empower others. I think it's very good to learn about occupational health, because the person is not just, what you meet them for that moment. The person is just the entire picture of who they are, what they do for their living, how is their family life, and what's their understanding of their situation. And so I think it helps a lot.
You and returning students, I would recommend being open to listening to your other students and faculty and really basking in their knowledge and expertise. Sitting back and listening to their feedback really helped me immensely. I can't express how thoughtful and enlightening the students' thoughts were, and I just was really grateful for that experience, and oftentimes miss it. So to the students, I recommend sit back, listen, and don't be afraid to provide your own expertise, because we're all in it together.
it's good to focus on a certain thing, but it's also good to broaden out your perspective. So you might come in as a primary care into the APRN program, but you know, having now branched out into occupational health, I really think that I am more marketable, honestly, because I have this other hat that I would not have had if I did not enroll into the program.
I think the best piece of advice I can give is to, one, be open to thinking about issues or problems from different point of views, whether it be trying to look at it through, you know, a physician standpoint, a nursing standpoint, even the standpoint of employers themselves. And the other piece of advice I would give is to participate, engage yourself in those discussions, let your ideas be known, because, you know, even if your idea isn't necessarily the right course of action, it might be. And no matter what, participating in the conversations that we have in the ERC program will only increase the body of knowledge and increase the information that we have to work together.
Can be some of the best years of your life. Great time to learn. Take advantage of it. Learn everything that you can. Immerse yourself in the learning process. And good luck.